Peppa Pig. I love you, Daddy Pig.
What are we doing today, Daddy?
asked Peppa one morning. Today, said Daddy Pig, we're going on a surprise adventure. Ooh, gasped Peppa and George, bouncing up and down in their seats. When Daddy Pig had everything ready, he called Peppa and George. Are you ready for your dadventure? He asked.
Yes, Daddy,
they cried, giggling. First stop, the supermarket, said Daddy Pig.
That doesn't sound very adventure-y,
said Peppa. You'll see, Daddy Pig replied. Daddy Pig zoomed around the supermarket with the trolley. This is how you shop in style, he cried, dancing and juggling with the food, then rolling the tins down his arms and into the trolley. Peppa and George clapped their hands.
Go, Daddy!
Peppa, George and Daddy Pig filled the trolley to the very top. Plunk, plop, crash. I think that's everything, said Daddy Pig.
I think that's everything in the shop,
said Miss Rabbit.
Daddy,
said Peppa as they put their food in the car.
I love shopping in style.
Me too, agreed Daddy Pig. Next stop, lunch with Granny and Grandpa Pig, announced Daddy Pig.
Lunch isn't an adventure, Daddy,
said Peppa.
We have lunch every day.
Yes, but do you have it on a pirate ship? asked Daddy Pig.
No,
said Peppa.
Arr!
cried George in his best pirate voice. Everybody hopped on board the ship for a special pirate picnic made by Daddy Pig. Goodness, said Grandpa Pig. This delicious food is worthy of the captain's table.
Daddy,
said Peppa,
I love pirate picnics.
Me too, said Daddy Pig, munching away.
Where are you off to next, my little pirates?
asked Granny Pig. I need to do a spot of work, said Daddy Pig.
Oh,
sighed Peppa.
Work's boring, Daddy.
Not my work, Peppa, said Daddy Pig. My work is an adventure. He pointed over to Miss Rabbit, who was waiting for them in her helicopter.
Ready to fly to work, Daddy Pig?
asked Miss Rabbit. We are indeed, said Daddy Pig.
Wow,
gasped Peppa and George, buckling up. They waved goodbye to Granny and Grandpa Pig, and then Miss Rabbit zoomed them across the sky.
Daddy,
called Peppa over the noise of the helicopter.
I love going to work.
Me too, called Daddy Pig. Miss Rabbit landed the helicopter at the playground. First, all the holes need filling with concrete, said Daddy Pig. Peppa and George sat in the driver's seat of a big, loud truck and poured concrete all over the playground.
Daddy,
shouted Peppa,
I love pouring concrete.
Me too, Daddy Pig shouted back. And now it is time to test all the play equipment to make sure it works, said Daddy Pig.
Hooray!
cheered Peppa, running to the seesaw.
Whee!
cried George, zipping down the slide and flying over the wet concrete.
Where to next, Daddy Pig?
asked Miss Rabbit. The fair, please, said Daddy Pig.
Righty-o,
said Miss Rabbit. At the fair, Peppa, George and Daddy Pig filled all the holes with concrete. Then they tested all the rides. twice.
Daddy,
Said Peppa.
I love the fair.
Me too, agreed Daddy Pig. We have one last job, said Daddy Pig. We must sign our work. Peppa, George and Daddy Pig gently pressed their hands into the wet concrete. Now everyone will know who poured this amazing concrete. Miss Rabbit flew everyone back to the car.
Daddy,
Shouted Peppa.
I love your job.
Me too, agreed Daddy Pig. When they got home, Mammy Pig asked Daddy Pig how their day was. Oh, just a normal day, really, said Daddy Pig. We did a little shopping, had some lunch with Granny and Grandpa Pig, and then I had to do a spot of work. He winked at Peppa and George. Peppa and George winked back at him. After their baths, Daddy Pig tucked Peppa and George into bed.
Daddy,
Said Peppa.
I love...
Peppa stopped to yawn. Yes, Peppa, said Daddy Pig.
I love you, Daddy.
Said Peppa. I love you too, said Daddy Pig. I love both my little adventurers. After such a busy day, the two little adventurers soon fell fast asleep.
Daddy Pig,
Said Mammy Pig when he came back downstairs.
what are these?
She held up the pirate costumes, hard hats, and photos from the rides at the fair.
I thought you spent the day shopping, having lunch with Granny and Grandpa Pig, and doing some work.
Well, said Daddy Pig, and then he told Mammy all about his day. Mammy Pig was very impressed.
I love you, Daddy Pig, she said. You make every day an adventure.
The end. Peppa Pig, Peppa's new neighbours. Daddy Pig is working hard. He is building a new house. The new house looks very small.
Is it a house for elves and fairies?
Asked Peppa. No, chuckles Daddy Pig. This is just a model. Daddy Pig shows Peppa and George a drawing of what the real house will look like.
Something is missing,
Says Peppa. She draws a swing to go outside the house. Perfect, decides Daddy Pig. Daddy Pig takes Peppa and George to see the new house. Here we are, he snorts.
But Daddy,
Says Peppa.
there's nothing here.
That's because the building work hasn't started yet, replies Daddy Pig. Mr. Bull is going to build the new house for Daddy Pig. Can you build it exactly like this, please? Says Daddy Pig.
But bigger.
Adds Peppa. Mr. Bull shouts to his friend. Mr. Pig wants a house. Is it going to be built of straw? Asked Mr. Rhino. Or sticks? Asked Mr. Labrador. Or bricks? Asked Mr. Bull. Daddy Pig wants a new house to be made out of brick. Mr. Bull gets straight to work.
Can we help?
Wonders Peppa. You can lay the first brick, smiles Mr. Bull. Mr. Bull tells George to put a blob of mortar on the ground. Mortar is a special kind of mud that sticks bricks together. Each brick must be laid straight and level. It will take ages.
Will you finish it today?
Asked Peppa. You can't build a house in a day, snorts Mr. Bull. It will be finished tomorrow. The next morning, Peppa and George go straight over to see the new house.
It's finished,
Snorts Peppa. It's almost finished, says Daddy Pig. It just needs to be inspected. Mr. Rabbit is the building inspector. He looks carefully at the new house. Very good, he decides. But you forgot the swing. Oh, no, we didn't, shouts Mr. Bull. The house is all ready for the new neighbours to move in. Mr. Wolf and his family arrive. Mr. Wolf tries huffing and puffing, but the house does not fall down. It is very strong. What is the new house made of? asks Mr. Wolf. Bricks, replies Daddy Pig, so don't even think about it. Wendy Wolf likes the new swing. Can you push me? asks Peppa.
No,
Grins Wendy.
I'll huff and puff you instead.
The end. Peppa Pig, Peppa and the Flying Vet. Peppa has brought Goldie the fish to the vet for a checkup. You've got a healthy fish, Peppa, says Dr. Hamster. Thank you, says Peppa. Suddenly, Dr. Hamster's telephone rings. It is Mr. Elephant. Hello, Dr. Hamster, he says. We found a sick lizard in the mountains. It's a gecko, not a lizard, adds Edmund Elephant. I'll be right there, says Dr. Hamster. Dr. Hamster springs into action. Can we come too? asks Peppa. Of course, replies the vet. All aboard the aeroplane. I didn't know you had an aeroplane, Dr. Hamster, says Mummy Pig. Oh yes, replies Dr. Hamster proudly. I'm the flying vet. Mr. Elephant spots the aeroplane in the sky. Thank goodness, he exclaims. The vet is here. When Dr. Hamster lands, she calls, Where's the sick lizard? This poor lizard is upside down, says Dr. Hamster, flipping it over. There, he's all better. Then Dr. Hamster's mobile phone rings. This must be another emergency, she says, answering the call. Hello, Grandpa Pig here, says Grandpa Pig. It's Polly, she's sick. I'll be right there, promises Dr. Hamster. So Peppa, George and Mummy Pig jump back into the aeroplane. Look, Polly, it's the flying vet, cries Grandpa Pig when he sees the airplane. We're going into the sea, cries Peppa. This is a seaplane, Peppa, says Dr. Hamster. We can land on the water. Polly has been ill since we got on board, explains Grandpa Pig. She must be seasick, says Dr. Hamster. And when Grandpa Pig puts Polly on dry land, she soon feels much better. Dr. Hamster's mobile phone rings again. It is Daddy Pig in his office. There are some ducklings stuck on our roof, says Daddy Pig. You're just in time, says Daddy Pig. Mrs. Duck laid her eggs on our roof, says Mrs. Cat.
Meow.
And they hatched, adds Mr. Rabbit. But the ducklings don't know the way to the pond. Who can make a quacking noise? asked Dr. Hamster. Quack, quack, says Peppa, and the ducklings follow her back to the pond. Dr. Hamster's phone rings for a fourth time.
Is it another emergency? Asked Peppa hopefully.
Yes, that was Mr. Hamster, says Dr. Hamster. I'm late for tea. Must fly. Thanks for your help, everyone cries, waving her off in her airplane. No problem, Dr. Hamster calls. It's all in a day's work for the flying vet. The end. Peppa Pig, Peppa's busy day. It is 7 o'clock. Move the big hand to the 12 and the little hand to the 7. At 7 o'clock in the morning, Peppa wakes up.
Time to get up, George,
cries Peppa. It is 8 o'clock. Move the big hand to the 12 and the little hand to the 8. At 8 o'clock, Peppa has breakfast.
Yummy, says Peppa. Can I have some more, please?
It is 9 o'clock. Move the big hand to the 12 and the little hand to the 9. At 9 o'clock, Peppa and George go to playgroup.
Dinosaur,
says George. It is 12 o'clock. Move the big hand to the 12 and the little hand to the 12. At 12 o'clock, Madame Gazelle takes everyone for a picnic lunch.
I love picnics,
says Peppa. It is 2 o'clock. Move the big hand to the 12 and the little hand to the 2. At 2 o'clock, Mammy and Daddy Pig pick up Peppa and George in their car. Toot toot! It is 3 o'clock. Move the big hand to the 12 and the little hand to the 3. At 3 o'clock, Peppa and George go to the playground.
Swing time,
shouts Peppa and Rebecca Rabbit. It's 6 o'clock. Move the big hand to the 12 and the little hand to the 6. At 6 o'clock, it's time for dinner.
Pancakes, cheers Peppa. They're my favourite.
It is 7 o'clock. Move the big hand to the 12 and the little hand to the 7. At 7 o'clock, Peppa and George get ready for bed.
Time to scrub and brush,
says Peppa. It is 8 o'clock. Move the big hand to the 12 and the little hand to the 8. At 8 o'clock, it's bedtime. Mammy and Daddy Pig come in to say goodnight. But Peppa and George are fast asleep. The end. Peppa Pig, the fire engine. Mummy Pig is going to the Mummy's fire engine practice. It's just a good excuse for a cup of tea and a chat, says Daddy Pig. I'm meeting with the Daddy's football team and having a barbecue. That's just a lot of grown-up boys kicking a football around, says Mummy Pig.
Mummy, can we see the fire engine?
asks Peppa.
Fire and done,
says George. Yes, Peppa, I'll take you and George, says Mummy Pig.
Hooray!
Mammy Pig drives Peppa and George to Miss Rabbit's fire station. "Hello, Peppa and George," says Miss Rabbit. "Come and see the fire engine." "There's a ladder for climbing," says Miss Rabbit, "a hose for squirting water, and a big bell to ring." Miss Rabbit takes them into the control room to look for fires.
Wow!
Peppa spots a red phone and picks it up. "Peppa, that's the fire phone," says Miss Rabbit. "It's only to be used when there's a fire." Peppa puts the phone down. Suddenly the red phone rings. Miss Rabbit panics. "Fire station, where's the fire?" says Miss Rabbit. "Can I talk to Mummy Pig, please?" asked Daddy Pig. "It's an emergency. I can't find the tomato ketchup anywhere." Miss Rabbit puts the phone down. "How many fires have you actually put out, Miss Rabbit?" asked Mummy Pig. None," replies Miss Rabbit. "Not one fire, but you've got to be ready." The red phone rings again. "Hello, Daddy Pig," says Miss Rabbit. "This phone is only to be used when there's a..." "Fire!" shouts Daddy Pig.
Oh no!
"Oh dear, Daddy Pig's barbecue is on fire." "Mummies to the rescue!" says Miss Rabbit. Miss Rabbit slides down the pole to the fire engine. All the mummies slide down the pole. Peppa and George hold tight and slide down the pole too. They all get into the fire engine. Miss Rabbit puts on the siren and drives them to Peppa's house. The fire engine arrives at Peppa's house. "Stand back, daddies!" shouts Miss Rabbit. Mummy Pig and Mummy Sheep hose down the barbecue. The fire is out.
Hooray!
"Thank you for saving us, Miss Rabbit," says Daddy Pig. "No problem, it's all part of the service," says Miss Rabbit. "The Mummy's fire engine service," says Mummy Pig. "And now that Miss Rabbit has kindly flooded our garden," says Daddy Pig, "we can all jump up and down in muddy puddles." "I love fire engines," says Peppa, "especially when they make muddy puddles." The end. Peppa Pig, the Time Capsule. Peppa and her friends are at playgroup. They are making a time capsule to show people in the future how they live. "We'll put special things in this box and bury it," says Madame Gazelle. "Will it grow?" asks Susie Sheep. "No, Susie, it will remain in the ground for many years," says Madame Gazelle. "Now, children, what things should we put inside?" asks Madame Gazelle. "A comic," says Peppa. "Music," says Susie. "A toy," says Danny Dog. "A carrot," says Rebecca Rabbit. "What do you think the future will be like?" asked Madame Gazelle. "I think the future I will live on the moon," says Peppa, "and all my friends will come to visit." "I will fly a space rocket," adds Danny. The parents come to pick the children up. "Daddy Pig, you're just in time to help us dig a hole," says Madame Gazelle.
Hooray!
Everyone goes outside to bury the time capsule. Daddy Pig buries the time capsule. "When can we dig it up?" asked Peppa. "It will remain in the ground for many years," says Madame Gazelle. I can't wait that long, says Peppa impatiently. Madame Gazelle laughs. You're just like your daddy when he was little. Your parents made a time capsule when they were little too, says Madame Gazelle. We buried it over here. I thought it was a much smaller tree, says Daddy Pig. The tree has grown since then, replies Madame Gazelle. Daddy Pig digs up the old time capsule. When they get back inside, it's time to open the old time capsule.
Hooray!
Stand back, children, says Madame Gazelle. Yes, Madame Gazelle, everyone replies. What do we have here? Says Madame Gazelle. An old comic, a tin toy, music, and a very old carrot.
Wow!
That's mine, says Mummy Rabbit. What a good choice, Mummy, says Rebecca. And a videotape of your parents when they were little, says Madame Gazelle. Who's the little piggy in the glasses? asks Peppa. That's Daddy Pig, replies Mummy Pig. Oh, and that's me. Hello, Victor, says little Daddy Pig. What a squeaky little voice you have, says Peppa, laughing. You're probably living on the moon now, says little Daddy Pig. Silly little Daddy Pig, says Peppa. Making time capsules is lots of fun, but finding them is even better. The end. Peppa loves reading. Peppa and George are in the living room, looking at their books while Mummy and Daddy Pig read. Peppa notices something strange. Mummy, she says, why are you and Daddy reading the same book? It's our book club book, replies Mummy Pig. What's a book club? asks Peppa. A book club is where we read the same book as our friends so we can talk all about the story together. We're meeting tonight, says Mummy Pig.
Wow!
Uh-oh, gasps Peppa, looking over at Daddy Pig. Daddy needs to hurry up, says Peppa, giggling. He still has lots of pages left to read before tonight. Oh, really? Says Daddy Pig. I thought I was doing quite well. But then he sees that Mummy Pig has nearly finished her book, and he quickly gets back to reading. George and I love reading, says Peppa. Please can we have a book club with our friends today too? What a wonderful idea, Peppa, says Mummy Pig. Mummy Pig makes a few calls and invites some of Peppa and George's friends over to talk about the red monkey.
Wow!
Daddy Pig sits down to read with Peppa and George. Peppa begins. The red monkey... sounds out Daddy Pig. That, says Peppa. The red monkey sat on the mat. Ooh, ooh, ha, 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 cries George. Wow, says Mummy Pig. What fantastic reading. When Peppa and George's friends arrive, they all talk about how much they enjoyed reading the book. I liked it when the red monkey sat on the mat, says Susie Sheep. Me too, says Peppa. Peppa and her friends help each other sound out the words Ooh, ooh, ha, ha! Shout George and Richard Rabbit. Like little monkeys. Everyone has lots of fun reading together until the doorbell rings. Who's at the door? Asked Peppa. It's Mummy and Daddy Pig's friends. Oops, says Daddy Pig. I've been reading The Red Monkey and forgot to read my own book. Let's talk about that instead, says Mr. Bull. I love The Red Monkey. Yay! Cheer Peppa and her friends. Peppa and George love reading. Everyone loves reading. The end. Peppa Pig. Peppa meets Kylie Kangaroo. It is a lovely sunny day, and Mr. and Mrs. Kangaroo have come to visit Mummy and Daddy Pig. G'day, Mr. Pig, says Mr. Kangaroo. We met at the airport a while ago, and you said we could visit, remember? Did I? Replies Daddy Pig, a bit confused. We didn't have Kylie or Joey back then, adds Mrs. Kangaroo. Say hello, kids. Hello, I'm Kylie Kangaroo, says Kylie. I'm Peppa Pig, snorts Peppa. And this is my little brother George. This is my little brother Joey, says Kylie, pointing at Mrs. Kangaroo. Joey lives in Mrs. Kangaroo's pocket. He peeks his head out and surprises everyone. Laughed Peppa and George. Mr. Kangaroo asked Daddy Pig if he's hungry. I'm always hungry, replies Daddy Pig, rubbing his belly. No worries, says Mr. Kangaroo, getting out the barbecue. We'll make lunch for everyone. Do you like corn on the cob? Asked Mrs. Kangaroo. Yummy, say Mummy and Daddy Pig. Let's hope it doesn't rain, says Daddy Pig. It always rains when we have a barbecue. While lunch is cooking, Peppa and George want to jump up and down in muddy puddles, but they can't find any. We can still do jumping, says Peppa. What's this? Peppa jumps as high as she can. Now you try, Kylie, she says. Kylie jumps high into the air. I like jumping too, she says. Whee! Wow! gasped Peppa and George, amazed. Kangaroos can jump very high. We're playing jumping, says Peppa when Rebecca Rabbit arrives. What's this? Squeaks Rebecca, jumping as high as she can. Peppa asks Kylie to show Rebecca how high she can jump. Wow! gasped Rebecca, watching Kylie spring up into the air. Pedro Pony bounces into the garden on his space hopper. Kylie can jump higher than that, says Peppa. Show him, Kylie. Wow! gasped Pedro, watching Kylie leap up into the air. Kylie is the best at jumping because she's a kangaroo. Food's ready, calls Mr. Kangaroo. But just as they are about to eat, it starts to rain. Oh dear, sighs Daddy Pig. No worries, says Mr. Kangaroo, putting up a huge umbrella. The rain makes eating outside more fun. After they finish their corn, the rain stops and the sun comes out again.
The rain makes lots of muddy puddles too,
says Peppa, jumping up and down.
Wow,
Gasps Kylie.
that looks really fun. Can we try it as well?
Everyone joins Peppa, and they all make a giant muddy puddle.
I'm the best at jumping because I'm a kangaroo,
Says Kylie.
but Peppa is the best at jumping up and down in muddy puddles.
The end. Peppa Pig. Richard Rabbit comes to play. Peppa and George are playing in their bedroom.
Let's build a house.
Says Peppa.
House!
Snorts George. Daddy Pig shouts up the stairs. George, Richard Rabbit is here. George's best friend, Richard, has come to play. George doesn't want to build a house anymore. He wants to play catch with Richard. Squeaks Richard. Snorts George. George and Richard start a new game. They turn the bedroom into Dinosaur Land.
Dinosaur!
Roar! Roars George.
You're too noisy, says Peppa, and I've got no one to play with.
Mammy Pig invites a friend over for Peppa. Now she has someone to play with too.
George, Richard,
Shouts Peppa.
Susie is here.
Susie Sheep is wearing her nurse's outfit today. Peppa and Susie tidy up George and Richard's toy.
This is not Dinosaur Land, says Susie. This is a hospital. A hospital must be kept clean and tidy, adds Peppa.
Peppa takes away George and Richard's dinosaurs.
These dinosaurs look ill, she says. They must go to bed.
George and Richard gasp.
Dinosaur!
Shh, says Susie.
Quiet in the hospital.
George and Richard decide to play something else.
Choo-choo! Choo-choo!
The bedroom is not a hospital anymore. Now it is George and Richard's railway station. Peppa and Susie don't want a railway station in the middle of their hospital,
We don't like little children's games,
says Peppa. Susie nods.
we like grown-up games.
Peppa and Susie get out the dressing up things. Now the bedroom is Fairyland,
There aren't any trains in Fairyland.
says Peppa. Susie agrees.
Only pretty things are allowed.
George and Richard burst into tears. Daddy Pig and Mummy Pig run up the stairs. What's all this crying about? They ask. George and Richard don't like grown-up games. Peppa and Susie don't like little children's games. Daddy Pig has an idea. He takes everyone outside. Look at the muddy puddles, he cries. George and Richard cheer. So do Peppa and Susie. Everyone loves jumping up and down in muddy puddles. The end. Peppa Pig. Read it yourself. School bus trip. Peppa and her friends are going on a school bus trip. Is everyone here? Says Madame Gazelle. Yes, they say. Everyone loves school trips. Where are we going for our trip? Says Peppa. We are going to the mountains, says Madame Gazelle. Hooray! Everyone says. They all look out as they go. The bus is going to the top of a big mountain. It is very high up.
Wow.
Come on, bus,
says Peppa. Up, up, up they go. The children sing a song as they go.
La 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 la.
The bus gets to the top and everyone gets out. Come and look at the big mountains, says Madame Gazelle.
Wow.
Peppa looks at the mountains. She is very high up. Wow, she says. Everyone hears, wow, wow, wow.
what was that?
Says Peppa. That was an echo, says Madame Gazelle. It is what you hear when you call out up in the mountains.
Come on, everyone,
says Peppa.
we can all make an echo.
The children call out.
Wow,
They can hear.
wow, wow, wow.
Everyone loves echoes. Come on, children, says Madame Gazelle. It is time for your picnic. Hooray, says everyone.
Where are the ducks?
Says Peppa.
They love it when we have picnics too.
Peppa and her friends look out for the ducks. Here come the ducks.
Hooray!
Says Peppa.
Quack, quack, quack.
Say the ducks. Come here, ducks, says Madame Gazelle.
Yes, come to our picnic, ducks.
Says Peppa. Then the ducks have a big picnic too. It is time to go back to school. The children get in the bus. Then they sing a song as they go back down the mountain. Everyone loves school trips. The end. Read it yourself. Peppa Pig, Nature Trail. Peppa Pig and her family are going on a picnic in the woods. Daddy Pig has the map.
Wow.
We need the picnic too, says Mummy Pig. But the picnic is still in the car. In the woods, Peppa sees something on the ground.
Look down there,
Says Peppa.
I can see some footprints on the ground.
Peppa and her family follow the footprints on the ground.
Wow.
A bird made these footprints, says Mummy Pig.
Look up there in the tree,
Says Peppa.
I can see some birds.
There is a mummy bird and some little birds up in the tree. Then Peppa sees more little footprints on the ground.
Look down there,
Says Peppa.
I can see some ants.
Peppa and her family are hungry. They need the picnic, but it is still in the car. Daddy Pig looks at the map. I don't know the way back to the car, he says.
I know,
Says Peppa.
I can see our footprints too. We can follow our footprints back to the car.
Then it rains. The rain takes all the footprints away.
I know,
Says Peppa.
I can see some ducks over there. Ducks love the rain and they love picnics. We can follow these ducks back to the picnic in our car.
The hungry family follow the ducks all the way back to the car.
I love picnics in the wood, says Peppa.
The birds, the ants, and the ducks love the picnic too. The end. Peppa Pig. Read it yourself with Ladybird. Sports Day. It is Sports Day at school.
Wow.
Peppa, George, and everyone are there.
Hooray!
First, it is the running race.
Ready, steady, go,
Says Madame Gazelle. They all run as fast as they can. Peppa is not ready. She comes last, and she is not at all happy. Rebecca Rabbit wins the running race. Hooray! Everyone says. Next is the long jump.
ready, steady, go,
Says Madame Gazelle again. George jumps as far as he can, but he comes last. George is not happy at all. Richard Rabbit wins the long jump. Hooray! Everyone says. Next, it is the relay race.
ready, steady, go,
Says Madame Gazelle again. Daddy Pig runs as fast as he can. Here, Peppa, says Daddy Pig. Run as fast as you can. But Peppa is not ready. Emily Elephant wins the relay race. Hooray! Everyone says. Peppa comes last again, and she is not happy at all. Next, it is the tug of war.
Wow.
ready, steady, go,
Says Madame Gazelle. Everyone tugs as hard as they can. Snap! The rope breaks.
Now everyone wins,
Says Madame Gazelle.
Hooray!
hooray, says Peppa. I win at last. I like Sports Day.
The end. Peppa Pig, Grandad Dog. Rich. This is Grandad Dog's garage. And here are Peppa and her family in the car. What can I do for you today? Asked Grandad Dog. Oh, they're for your tyres. No, thank you, replies Daddy Pig. Our tyres have lots of air. How about trying our new automatic car wash? Asked Danny Dog. No, thank you. I've just washed our car, says Daddy Pig. Just 2 ice lollies, please. Certainly, says Grandad Dog. Grandad Dog's garage sells all sorts of things, even ice lollies.
Wow. Hooray!
Peppa gets an orange ice lolly, and George gets a strawberry one. They giggle happily. Are you sure you don't need petrol for your journey? Asked Grandad Dog. "No, that will be all," replies Daddy Pig. "Thank you." Pays for the ice lollies and drives off. Daddy Pig doesn't get very far before the car stops. Grandad Dog spots that Daddy Pig needs help. "We are coming to the rescue." Grandad Dog takes a good look at the car. "You've run out of petrol," says Grandad Dog. "I'll tow you to my garage. There's plenty of petrol there." Grandad Dog fills up his car with petrol. "Thank you, Grandad Dog," says Daddy Pig. "Now the car will go," replies Grandad Dog, smiling. Oh dear, now Susie Sheep's car has got a flat tire. Oh no! Mummy Sheep makes a phone call. "The rescue!" cried Danny and Grandad Dog again, jumping into their tow truck. Peppa hops in too. "Hello, Susie," says Peppa. "We've come to rescue you." "Hooray!" They're Susie and Mummy Sheep. Back at Grandad Dog's garage, Grandad Dog fills the flat tire with air. Beep beep. Now Granny and Grandpa Pig have arrived in their car.
Hooray!
"No," says Grandad Dog. "You're for petrol or air?" "Neither," replies Grandpa Pig. "We want to try out your new automatic car wash."
Wow!
"Of course," says Grandad. "Red Dog's Garage is always here to help." The end. Pedro is late. Peppa and her playgroup friends are going on a trip to the museum.
Wow!
"Are we ready, children?" asked Madame Gazelle. "Where is Pedro?"
"I bet he is still in his pyjamas,"
says Susie Sheep.
"He's always late,"
says Peppa. Pedro Pony is fast asleep in bed. Pedro likes sleeping.
"Pedro, wake up,"
says Mummy Pony.
"You're going to be late for the playgroup trip."
Pedro yawns and gets out of bed.
"Okay, Mummy,"
he says. When Pedro and Mummy Pony arrive at playgroup, no one is there. They jump back into their car and drive towards the museum.
"Stop the bus,"
cries Mummy Pony.
"Pedro is here."
Miss Rabbit stops the bus and Pedro jumps on board. By the time they get to the museum, it is quite late. Mr. Rabbit is locking the museum's door when the bus arrives.
"Hello, Mr. Rabbit," says Madame Gazelle. "We would like to see the museum, please."
"I was just about to close," says Mr. Rabbit. "But I suppose I can give you a quick tour." Hooray! Everyone cheers. First, Mr. Rabbit shows the children a room full of clothes that belong to kings and queens. Pedro likes to look at things for a long time.
This is interesting,"
he says, stopping to look at the shiny crown. The class follow Mr. Rabbit through the museum. "Here are all the giant dinosaur skeletons," says Mr. Rabbit. "They are all very old and very interesting."
Wow!
The children all gasp as they look around. No one notices that Pedro is getting left behind. The last room on the tour is the space room. This room is dedicated to space, rockets and all of that sort of thing, says Mr. Rabbit. Mr. Rabbit needs to lock up the museum, so he shows everybody the exit. But Pedro is still inside the museum. Madame Gazelle goes to find him. Madame Gazelle eventually finds Pedro, but when they get outside, the school bus has gone without them. Oh dear, says Mr. Rabbit, have you missed the bus? Oh no! Mr. Rabbit is about to get into his car to go home. Mr. Rabbit, I am a teacher and I need your car, says Madame Gazelle. Jump in, Pedro. Madame Gazelle takes Mr. Rabbit's car. Don't worry, Pedro, says Madame Gazelle. I know a shortcut. Hello, ducks, says Pedro. Soon they are back at playgroup. No one is here, says Madame Gazelle. Oh no, says Pedro. Am I late again? Just then the school bus turns up. No, Pedro. I think for once you are early. Pedro is early, cheers Peppa, jumping off the bus. Yes, says Pedro, and you're late, slow coaches. Pedro decides he likes being early. Everyone likes being early. The end. Pedro's Pirate Treasure. Peppa and her friends have dressed up as pirates.
Wow.
Danny Dog is on board his pirate ship. Are you ready to play? He asks. Yes, we are! Everyone cheers in their best pirate voices. Pedro Pony guards the pirate ship, while Danny, Peppa, Susie Sheep and Freddy Fox search for treasure. First, Danny finds a pine cone. Treasure! Woof! He barks. Then Peppa finds a shell, Susie finds some rope, and Freddy finds a pebble. Everyone loves playing pirates and searching for treasure. Meanwhile, back at the pirate ship, Pedro starts to feel sleepy. He takes off his glasses and falls asleep against a tree trunk. Boo! Cry the pirates, creeping up on Pedro and waking him up. Oh! Gasped Pedro, surprised. Sorry, I fell asleep. We've got treasure to put in the treasure chest, says Peppa, showing Pedro. Everyone puts their treasure on the ground. Pedro guards the ship again, while the rest of the pirates head off to find a place to bury the treasure. Over a hill and round a little bush they go. Hurrah! Let's bury it here, cheers Danny. Freddy digs a hole. Danny puts the treasure chest inside and covers it with soil. How will we know where we've buried it? Asks Susie. Let's make a treasure map, says Peppa. Peppa draws a treasure map.
Wow.
Over the hill, round the little bush, and X marks the spot.
Danny draws an X on the ground to mark where the treasure is buried, and the pirates head back to their ship. When they get back, Mummy Pony arrives to collect Pedro. Stop! Shouts Pedro guarding the ship. Who goes there?
I'm your mummy, says Mummy Pony. Where are your glasses, Pedro? Oh no, says Pedro. I think I put them in the buried treasure chest. We can find them with our treasure map, cheers Peppa. Mummy Pony uses Peppa's map to find the buried treasure. Over the hill, round the little bush, and X marks the spot, says Peppa. Peppa's map leads them straight to the treasure. After Freddy digs it up, Pedro looks at it very closely. My glasses, he cries. Hooray! Everyone cheers. Treasure maps are very useful, says Peppa. Especially for finding glasses if you accidentally bury them, adds Pedro. Everyone laughs. The end.
Peppa goes to hospital. Today, we are going to visit Pedro Pony in hospital, Madame Gazelle tells the class. Pedro's leg is broken and the doctors are mending it. Peppa has never been to the hospital before. Except when I was born, of course, Peppa says. I'm wearing my nurse's outfit, Susie Sheep says, because hospitals are very serious. But when the class arrives on the children's ward, the walls are full of colour. Ooh, they all say as they set off to find Pedro. Pedro is in bed with his leg in a plaster cast. Does it hurt? Zoe Zebra asks. It did at first, Pedro says, but not anymore. Do you want to draw on it? What's it like being in hospital? Asks Peppa. It's great, replies Pedro. Nurse gives me stickers and comes whenever I press this button. Another nurse comes over with a trolley. Lunchtime, she says. Spaghetti and sponge pudding, please, says Pedro. Wow, you get to eat in bed, gasps Peppa. Dr. Brown Bear visits Pedro. You're nearly better and ready to go home. The bell rings. Visiting time has ended. Get well soon, wave the children. A few days later, Pedro is back. Where is your plaster cast? Asked his friends. My leg is all better. It's a super leg now, Pedro says. Thank you for visiting me in hospital. The end. Peppa Pig, Pedro Pony. This is Peppa's friend, Pedro Pony. Pedro likes skateboarding.
Come on, Peppa,
Shouts Pedro.
let's have a race.
Peppa gets on her bicycle.
Ready, steady, go,
She says. Sometimes Pedro is a little bit shy. Sometimes Pedro is not shy at all. Peppa and Pedro are both in the school play.
Wow. You are very good,
Peppa tells Pedro.
almost as good as me.
Pedro has a pet stick insect called Stephen.
Hello, Stephen.
Giggles Peppa. A stick insect is an insect that looks like a stick. Pedro likes playing pirates. Arr! Calls Pirate Pedro. Who wants to help me guard some pirate treasure? We do! Shout Peppa and her friends. Peppa has lots of fun with her friend Pedro.
Hooray!
When he grows up, Pedro would like to be a superhero. But Peppa thinks Pedro is super already. Peppa loves Pedro Pony. Everyone loves Pedro Pony.
Hooray!
The end. Peppa gives thanks. It is a lovely sunny morning. Peppa and Susie are having a tea party in the garden.
I brought my teddy to join us,
Says Peppa.
Did you bring your owl, Susie? No,
Says Susie.
I brought my new Mr. Super Snuggles. He's the best bear in the world. What does he do?
Peppa asks.
He can sing,
Says Susie.
and say I love you, and his eyes light up. Wow,
Says Peppa.
my teddy can't do any of those things.
When Peppa gets home, she finds Mummy and Daddy Pig.
I would like a Mr. Super Snuggles, please.
She says. But you have a teddy bear, Peppa, says Mummy Pig.
My teddy is boring.
Peppa snorts.
He can't sing or talk, and his eyes don't light up.
Ho, 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 ho. Daddy Pig laughs. Come, Peppa, let me show you something. Daddy Pig shows Peppa a photo album. There are lots of pictures inside. This is when we went camping, Peppa. And to the beach. And on a hot air balloon ride. And who is in all the pictures with you? Asked Daddy Pig.
My teddy,
Cries Peppa. Right, says Daddy Pig. You've had Teddy ever since you were a little piggy. That makes him very special. We have to be thankful for the things that we have, says Mummy Pig.
what's thankful?
Asked Peppa. It means we're happy for the wonderful things in our lives, said Mummy Pig. What are you thankful for, Peppa? Peppa thinks.
My toys.
She runs upstairs. Her room is filled with lots of lovely toys. What else? Asked Mummy Pig.
Our house.
Cries Peppa.
I love our house and our car and our garden.
Ho ho, laughs Daddy Pig. Anything else? Peppa thinks. I know something I'm thankful for, says Mummy Pig. What? Asked Peppa. You and George and Daddy Pig, of course, says Mummy Pig. Peppa giggles.
I'm thankful for that too. And I'm thankful for Susie Sheep and all my friends.
Says Peppa.
And Granny and Grandpa Pig.
Let's call Granny and Grandpa Pig right now, says Mummy Pig. We can invite them to a special dinner. Later that day, Granny and Grandpa Pig arrive. Mummy and Daddy Pig make a delicious dinner for everyone. Peppa and George help set the table.
This looks wonderful,
says Granny Pig.
Thank you for inviting us over.
Peppa, would you like to tell Granny and Grandpa what you learned today? Asked Daddy Pig.
Yes, says Peppa. I learned that I'm thankful I'm thankful for my toys and our house and my friends. How lovely, says Granny Pig. But most of all, I'm thankful for my family, says Peppa. And my teddy.
Peppa loves being thankful. Everyone loves being thankful. Especially when there's so much to be thankful for. The end. Peppa goes to hospital. Today, we are going to visit Pedro Pony in hospital, Madame Gazelle tells the class. Pedro's leg is broken and the doctors are mending it. Peppa has never been to the hospital before.
Except when I was born, of course,
Peppa says.
I'm wearing my nurse's outfit,
Susie Sheep says.
because hospitals are very serious.
But when the class arrives on the children's ward, the walls are full of colour.
Ooh,
They all say as they set off to find Pedro. Pedro is in bed with his leg in a plaster cast.
does it hurt?
Zoe Zebra asks.
It did at first,
Pedro says.
but not anymore. Do you want to draw on it? What's it like being in hospital?
asks Peppa.
It's great,
Replies Pedro.
Nurse gives me stickers and comes whenever I press this button.
Another nurse comes over with a trolley. Lunchtime, she says.
Spaghetti and sponge pudding, please,
Says Pedro.
Wow, you get to eat in bed,
Gasps Peppa. Dr. Brown Bear visits Pedro. You're nearly better and ready to go home. The bell rings. Visiting time has ended.
Get well soon,
Wave the children. A few days later, Pedro is back.
Where is your plaster cast?
Asks his friends.
My leg is all better. It's a super leg now.
Pedro says.
Thank you for visiting me in hospital.
The end. Peppa's Australian Underwater Adventure. Peppa was very excited. She had just won a Great Barrier Reef art competition at the aquarium.
Congrats, Peppa,
said Miss Rabbit.
Your prize is to join me on a marine biology trip to Australia.
Wow.
Hooray!
Cheered Peppa.
What's marine biology? It's learning about the plants and animals that live in the sea,
explained Miss Rabbit. Ooh, said Peppa.
We're going to stay with Mrs. Kangaroo,
continued Miss Rabbit.
She will teach us how to scuba dive in the Great Barrier Reef.
What an amazing prize for a competition, said Mummy Pig, a bit surprised.
Well, Peppa's drawing was very imaginative,
said Miss Rabbit. Her picture wasn't exactly like any fish I have ever seen, but it was a prize-winning picture. I see, said Mummy Pig. There's nothing wrong with a bit of imagination, is there? Of course, you, Daddy Pig and George will be coming to Australia too, Miss Rabbit told Mummy Pig. How lovely, replied Mummy Pig. Thank you, Mrs. Rabbit. Peppa and her family are very excited to be seeing their friends in Australia again.
Hooray!
We'll be leaving first thing tomorrow, said Miss Rabbit. Right then, said Mummy Pig. We'd better head to the shops and get everything we need for the trip. Peppa, George, Mammy and Daddy Pig headed to Mr. Fox's shop and told him what they needed. Mr. Fox got everything out. Now, he said, I think you'll also need some paper and colouring pens. You never know when they might come in handy. I'm not sure we do, began Mummy Pig. Trust me, Mummy Pig, Mr. Fox interrupted. You'll definitely need these. Oh, okay then, said Mummy Pig. Thank you for your help, Mr. Fox. We must get going now so we can pack all of this. The next morning, Peppa and her family woke up very early and hopped on the aeroplane to Australia. Where's Miss Rabbit? Asked Daddy Pig. I think she's finding her own way there, replied Mummy Pig. While Peppa, George, Mammy and Daddy Pig flew on an aeroplane, Miss Rabbit travelled to Australia by hot air balloon, helicopter and boat. Ahoy there! Amazingly, Miss Rabbit arrived in Australia at the exact same time as Peppa and her family. Welcome to Australia, everyone, said Miss Kangaroo. It's so good to see you, said Kylie Kangaroo, giving Peppa a big hug. After they were settled in, Mrs. Kangaroo went through the diving plan with Kylie, Peppa and Miss Rabbit. There are so many amazing creatures to discover in the Great Barrier Reef, she explained. It's an incredible place. Mrs. Kangaroo taught Peppa about diving and marine biology.
Wow!
What does buddy up mean? Asked Peppa. It means we are going to dive in a group, explained Miss Kangaroo. She held up a list of creatures they were going to see and count on their underwater adventure. Green sea turtles, orange clownfish, blue starfish, pink sea anemones, and even whales. Wow! Gasped Peppa. She was so excited. Mrs. Kangaroo drove everyone to the boat. Then they hopped on board with their diving gear and headed out to the diving site. When the boat stopped, Mrs. Kangaroo gave Peppa and Kylie a special underwater list each. It's important that we count the marine life carefully, she said. If you spot anything unusual, let me know. Then Peppa, Miss Rabbit, Kylie and Mrs. Kangaroo jumped backwards off the boat. They dived deep down under the water to the reef. The divers saw lots of amazing plants and animals on the reef. They spotted 5 orange clownfish, 4 pink sea anemones, 3 brilliant blue starfish, 2 big green turtles, and 1 enormous whale. Wow! Said Peppa. It's so colourful down here. Peppa and Miss Rabbit followed the whale further into the reef. Peppa used her diving fins to swim as fast as she could to keep up, and Miss Rabbit paddled along behind her. The whale pointed its fin at a big rock. Peppa peered behind the rock and saw a fish that wasn't on Mrs. Kangaroo's list, poking its head out.
That looks just like the fish I coloured in,
said Peppa. At the end of the dive, everyone climbed back on board the boat.
We counted so many creatures,
said Peppa excitedly.
It was amazing. I also spotted a beautiful fish that wasn't on your list, Miss Kangaroo. What did it look like, Peppa?
asked Kylie.
It looked a bit like a clownfish, said Peppa, but not exactly.
Said Mrs. Kangaroo. Can you describe it a bit more, Peppa? Peppa used the colouring pens from Mr. Fox's shop to draw the fish she had seen. It looked just like her picture from the aquarium.
Wow, that's a lovely fish, Peppa,
said Kylie. Peppa is very good at drawing, said Miss Rabbit. I don't believe it, gasped Mrs. Kangaroo when she saw Peppa's drawing. It looks just like a rare blue clownfish.
Wow!
That hasn't been seen for a while now. Where did you spot it, Peppa? Peppa took everyone back to where she had seen the unusual fish. Mrs. Kangaroo had been searching for the blue clownfish for a long time. Peppa spotted the whale winking at her in the distance.
Thank you for showing us the fish, lovely whale,
Peppa said, winking back. After Mrs. Kangaroo had taken lots of photographs of the fish, she signalled for everyone to swim up to the boat and head back to the shore. That afternoon, Mrs. Kangaroo and her family cooked a big meal to celebrate Peppa's amazing discovery. What do you think of the Great Barrier Reef, Peppa? Asked Daddy Pig.
It's the most brilliant place ever, replied Peppa. The fish are just like I imagined they would be.
She held up her picture from the art competition. It looked exactly like the fish she had seen on her dive. Everyone laughed. Peppa loves the beautiful Great Barrier Reef. Everyone loves the beautiful Great Barrier Reef. The end. Peppa Pig, Peppa's Clubhouse Adventure. Peppa and her friends are in their clubhouse.
What game shall we play today?
Asked Mandy Mouse.
Let's be adventurers,
Says Susie Sheep.
Yes,
Says Peppa.
And outside is a forest full of wild animals.
The adventurers wait inside the clubhouse for an animal to appear.
Daddy!
Peppa whispers through the window.
You have to be a wild animal.
Ho ho, I think I can manage that, says Daddy Pig. Daddy Pig pretends to be a wild animal stomping through the forest. Peppa laughs.
We need more wild animals.
Mandy asks her mummy to join the game.
I can be a wild animal too,
says Mummy Mouse.
Squeak, squeak.
Mandy frowns. A squeaking mouse is not even a little bit exciting. Mummy Mouse tries again. She makes a little growling sound. And then... Penny polar bears' mummies have decided to join in.
Polar bears are good at growling,
says Penny proudly. The adventurers peep out at the wild animals.
Wow!
We should make the game even more exciting,
says Peppa.
Let's pretend there's a jungle outside, says Susie, with jungle animals.
Just then, Mr. Lion the zookeeper arrives. Mr. Lion tells everyone that he is looking for some animals that escaped from the zoo. I heard noises coming from this way, he says. Says Daddy Pig. That was just us.
Should we be worried about the escaped animals?
Asked Mummy Mouse. No, says Mr. Lion. They are...
Penguins!
shout Peppa and her friends. The escaped penguins are waddling around the playground. There you are, the Lion. You cheeky things.
Hello, penguins, says Peppa. Would you like to see our clubhouse?
One by one, the penguins follow Peppa inside.
Look, says Penny. They like the swing and the slide,
Cheers Mandy. The penguins love the clubhouse. Everyone loves the clubhouse.
Hi kids, did you have fun watching this video? Then like and subscribe for more.